This episode is being sponsored by the Next Level Living course, where you can gain clarity, direction, confidence, and take control of your life. Go to christyfexer.com/course for more information. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of All in the Name of Growth. I'm really excited to be here today and super excited to have on special guest Barry Nicolaou. He's an author and a coach and actually coming out with a new book in November called Resetting Intention. We've had a little bit of a hit and miss getting Barry on the show. So here we are. We're really excited. Barry, welcome. Thank you for coming.
Christy, thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute honor to be here with you.
Yeah, I'm just really excited to have this conversation and to be able to dive into paradigm and what paradigm shifts are and how we can make them. And I love paradigm shifts. For me was a huge eye opener when I realized like what they were and how they could totally change my life. And I'm just really excited to be able to kind of uncover this for everybody else and to help them understand how impactful and powerful it can be in their lives. So before we really jump into that, can we just first talk about what is a paradigm?
Paradigms are really interesting. Paradigms are essentially habitual beliefs that have become ingrained into our daily routines. And a lot of the paradigms that we have as people are, I guess the best way to put it would be we're on autopilot for much of it. We're in a situation where if something's comfortable and if something feels okay, then we continue that line of behavior regardless of the outcome, regardless of any results, right? So I think when we speak about, and once you hear in your social feeds, in your news feeds about paradigm shifting, it's essentially about recognizing the paradigms that are helpful and the paradigms that are not helpful. And when I say aren't and are, the ones that are getting you the results that you want versus the ones that are getting you the results that you don't want, right? And then kind of be the gatekeeper in your own mind and say, okay, let's scrutinize this and let's look at the thoughts, the habitual thoughts that serve me and the habitual thoughts that don't serve me. And I think that's the really cool thing about paradigms. I will say that it takes a lot of courage and bravery, and you have to have a shift of consciousness in many regards to be able to shift paradigms. And for me, even for myself, for the longest time, it's a little bit of hard work to shift paradigms. Like, let's completely be honest here. It's not all sunshine and rainbows, right? But when you realize the results that can come from new paradigms, new thought processes, new habitual ingrained mental processes, then all of a sudden we become a completely different person in the sense of the results that we're getting. And
Right.
then people will say, well, you got lucky, Barry, or you knew Christy and that's why you did what you did. And all these kind of, but if you think about it, what's truly happening in this podcast even is you and I, Christy, have both had a paradigm shift that we can impact the world in a much bigger place.
And I think too, for the listeners, that there was obviously a paradigm shift in them at some point that brought them to a point where they are seeking growth, that they are seeking a change in their own lives. Which brings me to my next question, which is, we talk about habitual beliefs. So we talk about subconscious beliefs. If they're habitual and subconscious, oftentimes it's harder for people to recognize what they actually are. So where do you first get, I guess, to that point of identifying what is that habit? Like, what is that subconscious belief? What is that paradigm that they've created if it's kind of unknown?
It's actually a really good question. What's interesting? You go into your past, and for everyone listening, it's really important to do this. And you look at when habits started to form, and it's really hard to pinpoint the exact time when something became a habit. Usually, you did it once, and then you did it twice, and all of a sudden, it just felt normal after the third time, and then it just became ingrained in how you think or what you do, right? And then we haven't really scrutinized its health. We just gone, oh, it feels okay. It's not damaging me. And I'm not really, needing to go to hospital or anything like that. So I'm just going to kind of let it sit. So I think we've got to get really good at identifying the habits that are healthy and the habits that aren't healthy for us. And I think that's where it all starts, right? So if let's just take a really like a really simple exercise. If you list your habits that you currently undertake and you go, okay, this is a habit and that's a habit and that's a habit, and kind of rate them in health from 1 to 10. And 10 is a really healthy habit. It could be getting 8 hours sleep at night, or it could be eating right, or it could be having great friends and family around you, not toxic people around you. Like that could be a habit. And all of a sudden, then you look at your habits that aren't serving you, and it could be, fast food, and it could be getting angry quite quickly rather than having perspective on ideas. And it could be I don't know, being on your phone till the second you fall asleep, which there's science out now to say that you should stop screen time a couple of hours before you sleep. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you should do that for your brain to slow down and get ready for sleep. So, there could be habits that we've picked up. And looking at your phone until midnight could be a habit or a paradigm that you've just done for the last 2 years. And you just keep doing it, right? Because it's something that the brain needs stimulation consistently, stimulation, and the phone scroll, more information, more information. And hey, I'm guilty of it too. I'm letting you know I'm guilty of it too.
We all are.
But I've noticed that it's unhealthy. So what are you going to do, Barry? Are you going to sit there and just continue it? And I teach this stuff, Christy. I'm letting you know I'm guilty of it. But as you get older and as you start to go down this road that we're both down, right? You start to realize, you start to step out of yourself and you look at yourself as a third person and you go, Barry, is this a healthy thing that you're doing? And this is what we all have to do. We all have to step outside of ourselves and look at ourselves as a third person and look at Christy as if she's someone that you know and go, oh, if she was someone that I knew and she asked me for some great advice, what would I be telling her? And all of a sudden you start to identify the things that you could be doing better. And it's super cool because then you're not judging yourself, are you? You're just looking at yourself as a potential another person and that wants help. And that's what I do consistently. And I don't like the answers that I receive, to be completely honest with you, because I have to change.
Sure.
So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. So I love that you broke it down into identifying what your habits are, because I think that for a lot of people, we feel like our subconscious or even things that we maybe do in secret, we think that they are not ever going to manifest themselves out, but they always do.
Yeah,
Everything always manifests itself
they
out. So
do. 100%.
whatever habitual thought you've had or subconscious paradigm that you've picked up, or inherited thinking even from your childhood,
Yeah,
it's all coming out in some form. And a lot of times it is through your habits. It's through those everyday kind of actions, or the way that we think, or the way that we process, or the way that we respond.
yeah,
It all comes out in habitual form. And that is a really great indicator of like, where did that, and like you said, it's not always easy to identify where it started, but go back as far as you can to,
spot on.
where that maybe came from and why it came from. And a lot of times it is, when we're talking about bad habits, for example, whether, you chose to, be a habitual liar, or that you chose to, they can go a whole range of things, right? It can be just looking at your phone before bed. It can be holding your breath when you're stressed. It
Yeah,
can be telling
yeah,
lies instead of being honest. It can be sabotaging your relationships, right? And it is those things. While I would love to do a whole episode on all of our good habits and all of the best things about us, we've
yeah.
already made those changes, right? And
Yes,
so, yeah, you
yes.
can go look at those things and be like, well, how did I implement that really awesome change in my life? But it's the bad things, or the maybe not bad
Not
necessarily, but the
healthy,
things that aren't serving
unhealthy.
us.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
yeah,
unhealthy things that we want to change. So when we're talking about that, we recognize that they usually come from a toxic place.
mm,
So let's
mm.
talk about toxicity a little
Of
bit,
course,
and
of course.
how that kind of plays into our paradigms and how we create them.
Absolutely. And just before we get to toxicity, I'd like to quickly just jump on one more thing with paradigms, if I can, Christy.
Yeah.
Um, um, we talked about subconscious thought. Paradigms will always seep into subconscious thought. Now, the new book that I'm writing, thank you for mentioning it, by the way. I've come to the research that I've done. I've come to the conclusion that our subconscious mind must show us the tangible expression of our thoughts in reality. Like it must show us. It has no, it's not like it wants to or it's interested in it. It must. And if you want to question that, you think to yourself, okay, let's look at all the things that have happened in my life. Have those things been true? And have they been believed by my mind? And if the answer is yes, like a really simple exercise is, do you get cut off in traffic? Do you believe that you consistently get cut off in traffic? I have one client right now, and he, like, the first thing he says to me is, you won't believe the truck that cut me off this morning. And I'm like, we've had this conversation like 20 times, and literally he believes. I know this is a silly example, it's an innocuous example, it doesn't mean anything, but it forms the basis of our experiences, right? So
Yeah.
you think, he always gets cut off in traffic, he consistently, and like his mantra, his self talk, his talk to me, and to his therapist, by the way, is he always gets cut off in traffic. Now, he consistently experiences the reality of that. Like he waits for the truck now to cut him off. So it's really interesting. Like if you look at your own life and you look at the things that you believe as truisms, and let's shift it now to something quite positive. Let's just have a monetary amount that you want to earn a year, or let's say you want to beat cancer, or let's say you want to find a partner that really suits you, right? Like someone that you really get along with. Like, is that a possibility in your mind? And I might upset a few people by saying this, but if you really want something and you secretly believe it's not going to happen for you, I'm letting you know it's not going to happen for you.
Yep.
So you've got to shift that possibility of it happening to you. And I keep using a mathematical formula. I keep saying it's got to reach 51%. Like your belief in achieving it has to reach that. If you're at 49, your doubt will win.
Yep.
And this is really important to consider, because if you go back to your life and go, okay, what do I really believe as truisms, and what does my subconscious think of life and scenarios that are true and false? And you might surprise yourself that if you are looking for love, that your secret story is that that person isn't out there.
Yeah. Or that you're unlovable. Mm-hmm.
Right, that you're unlovable. It's spot on. But you could be telling yourself and your friends a different story. Oh, I'm looking for him, or oh, I'm looking for her, and she's out there, blah, blah, blah. But then you go to sleep at night. And what's the true story you tell yourself? Is it the fact that you don't believe? And life will pick that story, because that's what you mean rather than what you say. And life will always respond to what you mean to say, not what you say. You can't manipulate it. And this is, we dive into the law of attraction and other areas in my book. And you cannot manipulate life into giving you what you want. It will in essence be a true reflection of who you are as a person. It will give you, if you're worth if you believe you're worth $1 million a year, man, like if you think your time is worth $1 million a year, and the next person believes they're worth 60,000 a year, I'm letting you know, life doesn't care. It will just give you scenarios, people, situations, circumstances based on that belief. So you've got to change what you believe you're worth. Like from a love perspective, from a money perspective, from a health perspective. And unless you do that work, I'm letting you know, you can listen to all the great podcasts in the world and you can listen to all the experts, but unless you don't believe it in yourself, it's not going to happen. So you've got to shift that paradigm inside yourself first. Sorry to go on.
No, that was great. I love that tangent. I loved the side thought that you had there. And I'm glad that you shared it, because it is absolutely true and it's true on both sides, right? Like it's true on the 49% and it's true on the 51%. It's true that if you don't believe you're enough, you're not.
You're
Even
not.
though everybody in the world can tell you that you are, if you truly
No.
believe in yourself that you're not. And that goes for money, and that goes for relationships, that goes for spirituality, it goes for self-worth. I mean, every aspect of your life, if you inherently have a belief, even if you're saying opposite words,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
what you actually believe in yourself that is
Yeah.
actually going to create. And I love what you said about the subconscious actually manifesting a physical form. Like
Yeah.
it always does. It
It
is
always
just,
does.
it's a natural law of the universe. So whatever is happening in your subconscious mind and in happening in your beliefs, the thing that you're actually emotionally attached to, that's what is going to come.
Spot on, 100%. And you know what's interesting? I was born Christian. I am Christian currently as well. And I need you to understand something as well. God has given us the ultimate form of checks and balances, in the sense that He's given us the choice of thought and He's given us imagination.
Yes.
Just think about that for a sec. We've got choice of thought and choice of who we listen to. We've got choice. Like, it's not like we're being rammed down a certain path. We've got choice. And then we've got the faculty of imagination. So those two areas combined, God says, you can have whatever you want.
Yeah.
This is my playground, but it's made for you. You can climb the monkey bars, you can climb the slippery slide, you can go for a run, you can do whatever you like. It's
You can go
your
sit in that mud
playground.
puddle if you want.
You can sit in the mud puddle. A lot of people are in the mud puddle. Um, but you've got it. So all of a sudden, if you can listen to a podcast, read a book, listen to someone that is really positive that can uplift you, all of a sudden the paradigms start to shift. And then
Yes.
you just start to entertain new possibilities. That's all you
Yes.
do. And it's cool
Yes.
because from that, you start attracting scenarios that you thought, oh my God, how did that happen? So it's pretty cool. Anyway,
It
sorry
is.
to jump again.
No, no, it's an incredible realization. And I think that when people truly understand the truthfulness in that whole message of
Yeah.
thought,
Yeah.
that you can control your thoughts, you can control your subconscious, and your subconscious manifests itself. When
Yes.
you really understand how that's all connected,
Yes.
the whole world opens up to you.
Well, it does green lights. Like it's literally green lights everywhere. You start to think, holy crap, I'm actually influencing this. It's not, life's not happening to me, it's happening for me.
I actually appreciate that. And I think that this is a good opportunity to go back to, kind of what we were talking about toxicity.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's really helpful to focus on the possibility and the potential that's out there. But I also know that it's really easy to get caught up in, and even as people who study this like for a living, right? Who really try to implement and be on top of their game as far as creation and possibility and hope and love and all of those things. There can still be days, even for us, where it's just like toxic. So how do we
Yeah.
how does a normal, or a person who doesn't make this
Yeah.
their life study, how do they understand or overcome the toxicity that surrounds them?
Okay, so really good question. And to be completely open with you, I don't think there's a person on the planet that has a silver bullet answer for this, because I think that everyone's situation and version of toxicity is different. I
Yeah.
can speak from my own experience and from the experience of the people that I coach and the corporations that I'm now in as well, right? So the first thing you've got to do is, when you're on this path, the first thing that tends to happen when you're on a personal development growth path, the first thing that happens to you is that you start to identify frequencies and vibrations of people that are not aligned to you. That's
Yes.
the first, they just become an obvious, not in a bad way, they just become an obvious standout in your brain. Like, oh, I've never noticed that Jim says those things, or I never noticed that Rachel acts a certain way when I say certain things. I've never noticed that before. It's interesting. I've known them for 15 years. Why have I not seen this before? And it's because the frequency and the vibration of what you are now doing is on a different level, right? Not a higher level or a lower level, just a different level, right? So it's really important to recognize that as these moments start to happen for you, and as you start growing, you start to see news cycles, you start to see anger in people, you start to see unresolved issues in others around you, and they just stand out to you more and more. And what they do is they reveal the toxicity that you might have towards yourself or the friends and family around you. So for me, when I was going down this path, I had to have some really tough conversations with people, and they sucked. By the way, they really, really sucked. And some of those people were family members. And I would sit down in front of one particular family member, and I would just say, "Hey, you've given me such good, you've passed on such good traits. You've passed on love, and you've passed on respect, and you've passed on honesty, and you've passed on values. But you know what? Our lineage in life, like if you go back, say, 2 or 3 generations, they had a lot of fear in them, and
Mhm.
that fear got passed down biologically as well. And I ended up inheriting some of that fear, right? And unless I checked it and put it in check and realized it was, what it was, then I couldn't move forward in my life. So these conversations were really hard, because especially like parents, they instill fear in some sense to protect you. Like it's a protection mechanism. Like they would argue that I was trying to protect you, right?
Yeah.
And it's true to a point, but if you protect me from everything, oh my God, how am I ever going to fall and grow and learn and apply that new wisdom moving forward. So I think as parents, and I've got two daughters, and I'm speaking as a parent. I'm not just speaking as a son or I'm actually speaking as a parent of two girls. And I'm letting you know that every time they fall, I don't rush and pick them up. And I think that's important when you look at toxicity as well. You've got to identify the scenarios, situations, and people that are no longer in service in your life.
Mhm.
And it's interesting, Christy, you don't necessarily pick friends anymore. What you do pick is energy.
Yeah, it's true.
You pick
It's
energy,
so
man.
true.
You pick the vibration of someone, how they make you feel when you're consistently with them, and you gravitate towards that. And you kind of take slow but steady steps away from the people that don't make you feel good when you're around them,
Mm.
right? And then
Yeah.
that goes broader, that goes out to news cycles and the food you eat and the sleep that you get. Like toxicity is in many, many forms.
Yeah.
Lately I've let go of a very, very long friendship, and there wasn't anything that was said or done. I just felt my energy dip every time I left that person's company.
Hmm.
And I've identified him as and toxic's a strong word, but I've identified him as
Sure.
stale energy. I don't know if stale is probably a really
Stagnant.
kind of mild way to put it. And it's just then I want to hang around people that are stretching and that are reaching and that understand this stuff deeper than I do. And then all of a sudden you start to grow with those people.
Hmm.
And this is the thing, like, are you the type of person that says, I'm kind of comfortable where I am and I don't need to change? Or is there a little inkling in you that says, you know what, something doesn't feel right and I don't know what it is? And
That's
I,
yes.
yeah, and then the best answer to say, like, I catch up with people, and the best thing I usually say to them is, how's that working out for you? It's a really nice way to put it for people to self-reflect.
Yeah.
And then they're honest and they say, well, it's not really working out for me at all. If I was completely open with you, Barry, it's not.
Yeah.
And then you go, okay, well, that's a really good place to start, because you've just recognized that something is amiss and you want to try and build a new foundation. And I think that's really cool. By the way, congratulations for getting there. Like, a lot of people will say everything's fine, everything's
Hmm.
cool. And really, it's the biggest load of crap you've ever heard. And I move away from those people because I know that they'll be ready one day, but it's not today.
Right. I remember there was a time, it was right after my husband and I had very first discovered The Secret. We had just
Mm,
watched
mm,
it
mm.
together, and it
Yeah.
was like, talk about a paradigm shift, right? Of like a magnitude. It was really incredible to understand the teachings that come from The Secret. And for anybody who hasn't watched it, definitely recommend it. Um, I remember at that time we had some really, really good friends that we spent like weekends hanging out, playing games. Our kids were kind of the same age. And so it was just like the place we were. And there wasn't like a falling out, right? Like there wasn't even a conversation really. It was just something changed, just like you had said. Like it was just a notice of something is different than it used to be. And a lot of times people will come to you and they will tell you you've changed. And they do it almost in a demeaning way. Like there's something now wrong with you. You're different. You've changed. And I honestly take it such a compliment now if somebody tells me that I've changed, because I'm like, hallelujah. We aren't meant to stay still. We're not meant to stay stagnant. We're meant to grow. And of course, growth is going to look like change. And sometimes our growth makes other people uncomfortable because they're not growing and they haven't realized that they even can grow. And so that's where that conversation kind of comes in of you've changed, you're different than you used to be. And I know that for a lot of kids, especially when they are in their high school years, or even in college, and they decide, I don't want to party. I don't want to be that person. I don't want to waste my life away. I want to be successful. I want to make better friends. I want to make better choices. That a lot of times they get a lot of crap for that because they have made those changes. And that can also follow us obviously into adulthood when we're like, I don't want to be in this job anymore. I don't want to be in this relationship that is like sucking my soul out. I don't want to be in and identifying, like you had said, I love that you had said in toxicity that one of the biggest indicators is a difference in energy, a difference in where I am and where you are, and like what is that difference? And it can even be, and I know that for a lot of people, when they get on like Instagram or on social media and they're looking at and following somebody's life who is successful, who is appears to have all their stuff together, and you notice that there's something there too. There's a difference in energy there even. And so it doesn't have to be a toxic energy. It can just be a different energy. And we like to be around energy that is similar to our energy. Like you said with friends, that it isn't that you're making friends now, it's that you're trying to find people who are at the same energy level as you, because that's
Aligned.
where it feels good to be.
Yes.
And it's nice, like especially in a spousal relationship, if their energy is growing at the same pace that your energy is growing. Because if there's a big difference
Disparity.
between the
Yeah.
two of you, it can definitely cause problems. And so I liked what you said also about making those gradual shifts away in the right direction, moving in a place that is good for you. And I'm not talking about throwing away your marriages and all of that kind of stuff. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not a proponent for that. I mean, if it's something unhealthy and it's best for you, that's, your situation best. But I also know that we can inspire people, that through
Absolutely.
our own growth, through our own increased energy, it helps show people what they can accomplish in their own lives, that they can also increase their energy, that they can also focus on personal development and on personal growth and on possibilities that are out there, instead of just swimming in that, mindset or that paradigm of what they've been taught growing up.
Yeah.
So,
No, you're spot on. And actually, I'd love to expand on what you just said regarding when people say you've changed.
mhm,
If you look at, okay, just as a general rule going forward, if you think that when you have conversations with people, and this is like a little secret insight, if you really want to, this is proven in psychological circles as well, right? If you look at what people say, there's an undertone of what people mean, right? And sometimes you get aligned people with exactly, they articulate exactly what they say with exactly what they mean, and you know exactly what's being said, right? But there are most of us kind of try to keep the situation a little bit easy for the person that we're speaking to. We don't want to upset them. But when people say you've changed, what they're really saying is you've changed for me.
right.
Like you're not this, our relationship isn't the same anymore. Our friendship's changed for me. So that's what they're really saying. But they're trying to put it on you like you're the bad guy.
Yeah.
Like you're the one that's, upsetting the apple cart here. What on earth? What's this personal development road, whatever, rah, rah. But you're like, and there's two responses to that. One of them is getting upset and trying to justify your position. And the other one is namaste, have a great day,
Yeah.
and just moving, and don't let that conversation absorb in your energy. And at the beginning of my personal development journey, I had this illusion that everyone wanted help, like, oh, because I want it, everyone should want it. And when I wrote my first book, I was kind of perplexed by people not wanting to change. And here's the proof, here's the science, here's the information. How could you not? And then you realize, Christy, something really, really important, that people are at all different levels in their personal development, like journey. Like it's all different. And now when I speak to a room of a couple of hundred people, like I used to walk into that room thinking everyone's going to shift. But what I've realized is that, and I've had this mental, and this is a great way to look at it as a coach as well. I've had this mental thought of, at the level of 10, everyone makes a life-changing choice. Let's just say hypothetically, at 10, we could be speaking to a room of 3s, 4s, 8s, 6s, 1s, 0s, whatever, right? We don't know where everyone's at when they make the shift, right? But one thing I do know for sure in my heart is that when I leave that room, everyone goes up one number.
Yeah.
The 6s go to 7s, the 8s go to 9s, the 3s go to 4s, the 9s make decisions. I hope I'm speaking to 8s and 9s, but I have no idea. And I'm hoping that they've paid money for the ticket, that there are 7s, 8s, and 9s in the room, but I don't know. We don't, right? So I just say, God, use me as a vessel to get love and inspiration out there. And whoever is meant to absorb this lesson, I hope that they make the best choice possible. But it used to upset me. Now it doesn't. If someone comes to me and says 2 and 2 is 5, I'll agree. Okay, no problem. 2 and 2 is 5. That's great. Have a great day. Whereas I used to argue the maths of 2 and 2 being 4, I don't do that anymore. And I don't know if that's part of getting older or if it's just part of not wanting those conversations anymore. But yeah, I don't. Anyway, it is what it is. Everyone's
Yeah,
different.
it's very similar to the psychology of sales. You know, in sales, we know that it can take anywhere from 7 to 13 touches the same person before they are ready to buy, unless they come to you as a 9 or a 10, right? And so every one of those touches raises them up just another level. And that could be, you know, when we're talking about personal development, that could be a podcast, that could be a book, it could be a enlightened conversation, it could be a inspirational movie. You know, like those things come in a lot of different forms. And you're absolutely right that when, you know, when we come across people, they're not all 10s. Not everybody wants to change. Some people are just toying with the idea of a possibility that their life may be able to be different. And that's all they've got right there is just this thought that it maybe could be different. So as we're kind of like wrapping it all up, then I'd like to give people a parting thought. Like, what is the thing, you know, we've talked about paradigm shifts and subconscious beliefs and habitual thinking and, you know, like creating your life your way, and how there's kind of like a toxicity that can, and an energy shift that can kind of impact that.
Mm.
Now what? I mean, that was a lot. That was a lot.
That
So
was a lot.
what
Yeah,
is
there's a
like
lot of.
the one thing that they can take away that's like, right now, this is the thing I can do?
Yeah, okay. So first of all, I'd like to thank you for letting that inspiration fuel you. That's the first thing. Thank you for allowing Christy, you and I to fuel your day. The one thing you can do, honestly, is look at the next right move in that direction. I think that makes a lot of sense, and I can't see any holes in that argument because at the end of the day, you put petrol in your car to be able to take you somewhere. Yeah, like we all agree with that.
Right.
So right now, you've got inspiration as fuel, and you can either let it dissipate and let it go into the atmosphere and see you later. You'll never see it again. Or you can take it and go, where do I want to go with this fuel in my car? Where, how far can it take me? Right. And that's the thing that I keep doing when I listen to my people that I admire and the people that I have as mentors as well, and the people that I mentee. I look at it and I go, this feels inspirational. Like, what would the next right move look like in wanting to start an app? Oh, okay. I wonder if someone overseas knows someone that can help me in that regard. I wonder if I want to beat cancer. I wonder what that would look like. I wonder if it would start with people that have beat cancer. I'm going to find out how they did it. So all of a sudden, that's what the next right move would be. Starting a business. You know, I wonder what the next right move would be to start a business. Would be to call my accountant, sell my house, take a small loan. What would the next right move be? Finding a life partner. I think that's pretty cool. Like, I think that, and by the way, with love, it's a very complicated subject. But I will say this. You need to look again for the energy frequency of the person inside your life that you really want to manifest your future with. Like a lot of people, and the other thing I will say is, just quickly, you've got to be able to fight well with them. I'm sorry I'm saying that, but you've got to be able to quarrel well and then get back to love quickly.
Yeah.
Like that's the key. If you're holding grudges for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, I'm letting you know that's not healthy for you or them. So you've got to find someone where you go, okay, I've get you, we've had a fight, blah, blah, blah. Yes, we're off page today. How can we get back to love quickly?
Right.
And that's the key for love, right? But I honestly believe that with the next right move, it makes complete sense, because the individual is going to go, oh, what does that look like for me? And then write it down, like write these things down and then do it. Don't just write it down and then go have a sandwich. Go and do it, like whatever that is. It might be to ring Christy for some coaching advice. It might be to, I don't know, go down the road and look at your options at a library or whatever it is. Just do it. And then all of a sudden, the next move reveals itself from that point. It's like climbing a staircase, right? You're not going to climb 8 steps at once. You're going to climb the first, and then the body knows what to do with the next step. So it's the same.
Yeah.
So you just got to take that first step.
Yeah, I love that that's the question. And I think that there's really power, a lot. It's not, I know that there is a lot of power in asking questions of yourself.
Yeah.
Because when you get in that place, you can come up with some really powerful answers and conclusions. And so asking yourself, what is the next right step? And like, I really like the journaling it out and writing it down and sitting with it for a minute, get a blank piece of paper and just say, what is the next right step? And sit with it for a minute and really think about it. Think about where you are, where you want to be, and how it could look different. And what is that next, like you said, you don't jump up to like the fifth rung on the ladder. You take the first rung first and figure out what that looks like. And then, like you said, take action on it. I think that that's really, really sound advice. So awesome. Barry, thank you. Thank you. For those who are not watching on YouTube, for those of you who are listening on the podcast, behind Barry, it started out pitch black and it is now turning into a blue sky. So just so you know, Barry woke up really early this morning to come on the podcast and share his brilliance with us. So I really appreciate that. And I love that you have become a student of not just a student, but also the teacher, and being able to empower others and help them to be able to create that shift, to be part of that movement that empowers people to change their thinking and to see the possibilities that are in front of them for what they are, that there are actually possibilities, that they can actually change their life. And I think that that's amazing, that is, a choice of life that you have chosen to pursue. I love the discussion. I love being able to talk to other people who also see life as a true possibility and what's out there. So thanks for coming. Where can people find you?
Listen, absolutely. Well, Instagram is probably the best place. Just put in my tag, just be Nicolaou. You'll see me there, which is pretty cool. I usually have daily inspirational quotes. Lately, my work's been on LinkedIn a lot of the times as well, because I'm focusing on corporates right now. It's crazy. We've got government contracts lined up, Christy, that want to understand the business of energy as it relates to a currency. It's really, really wild. Like corporations want to know post-pandemic how people feel about their business. So Instagram, look me up on LinkedIn, just type in my name into LinkedIn, I'll come up. But the website is doing well. So just go to barrynicolaou.com. I'm sure Krista will provide the spelling of the Greek surname, which shouldn't be too convoluted.
Just like it sounds.
But the next book's exciting. That's due in November. It's called Move the Mountain, Intention Reset. So it's all about moving, and it's a parable from Christ. Most of us that do know, I think it's Christ. Oh, don't quote me on which, Matthew 13:12, I think it was. Anyway, what is it? Christ said, with the faith of a mustard seed, you will say to that mountain, move from here to there. Yeah. And it will move as to your will. And, Christ was teaching this stuff 2,000 years ago, like the power of thought and the power of faith and belief. So that's where the book title Move the Mountain came from. And if you want to buy it, hopefully before Christmas, it'll be out. And it's very exciting. So it'll be cool.
Love it. Awesome. Yes, I will make sure that everything is in the show notes and on the YouTube description so everybody can get to the right place. Barry, thanks for coming. I appreciate you waking up early.
No problem. Take care of yourself.
All right. We'll talk to you later.
Okay. Bye.